Namaskar and welcome to our special program In Focus. Now, In Focus looks at critical issues facing the nation and the steps taken to help in overcoming the speed breakers in our journey to become an empowered and self-reliant nation. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Today we are talking about NIPUN Bharat mission. The vision of NIPUN Bharat mission is to create an enabling environment to ensure universal acquisition of foundational literacy and numeracy so that every child achieves the desired learning competencies in reading, writing and basic numeracy by the end of grade 3, and also there's a focus here by 2026-27. Let me quickly introduce you to the panel of esteemed guests who are joining us for this conversation. We have with us Mr. Manish Garg, Joint Secretary, Department of School Education and Literacy. We are also joined by Professor Ranjana Arora, Head, Department of Teacher Education, NCERT. And we'll also be joined by P.S. Nagalakshmi, Headmistress, Kendriya Vidyalaya, KV Picket, Hyderabad. Good afternoon and warm welcome to all our guests. And before we begin our conversation, let us quickly learn a little about what NIPUN Bharat is all about. The National Initiative for Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy, that's NIPUN Bharat, has been launched. It targets children in the age group of 3 to 9 years and promotes basic language, literacy, numeracy skills in them. The mission is part of the new Education Policy 2020, launched at the end of July last year. Let's learn more about NIPUN Bharat.
It has been found in various surveys that 33% children studying in class 3 face difficulty in reading even small sentences, while 44% of them do not even know the basic knowledge of addition and subtraction in mathematics. In a bid to promote foundational literacy and numeracy, the central government has launched the National Initiative for Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy, NIPUN Bharat. NIPUN Bharat aims to cover the learning needs of children in the age group of 3 to 9 years. Teachers need to focus on every child for developing basic language, literacy and numeracy skills, which will help them develop into better writers and readers. The mission, initiated under the provisions of the new Education Policy 2020, aims to ensure that every child in the country necessarily attains foundational literacy and numeracy by the end of grade 3 by 2026-27. Union Minister for Education, Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank, virtually launched the NIPUN Bharat mission on Monday. He also issued guidelines for implementation of the mission.
राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 इस बात को भरपूर उजागर करती है कि स्कूल शिक्षा प्रणाली की सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता कक्षा 3 तक, यानी कि 3 वर्ष से 9 वर्ष तक मूलभूत साक्षरता एवं ज्ञान, जो संख्या का ज्ञान है, उसकी सार्वभौमिकता हर हालत में प्राप्त होनी चाहिए। हमारी जो राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति इस बात को लगातार दोहराती है और इस बात पर भी चिंता प्रकट करती है और उसका समाधान मांगती है कि मूलभूत शिक्षण को स्कूलों में ही पूरा किया जा सके।
The mission has been launched under the aegis of the centrally sponsored scheme of Samagra Shiksha. The Department of School Education and Literacy of Ministry of Education will implement the mission at national level. A 5-level implementation mechanism will be set up for better implementation of the mission at national, state, district, block and school level. The NIPUN Bharat mission is not only a step towards achieving the goals of national education policy, but will also pave way for revolutionary changes in primary education. Nishant Saurabh's report, DD India.
So that is what NIPUN Bharat is all about. Let me quickly once again welcome all 3 guests who are joining us in the conversation. Mr. Manish Garg, Joint Secretary, Department of School Education and Literacy, Professor Ranjana Arora, Head, Department of Teacher Education, NCERT, and P.S. Nagalakshmi, Headmistress, Kendriya Vidyalaya Picket, Hyderabad. Good afternoon to all of you. Manish, if I can begin with you. One can't say enough about the importance of primary education. It is really an introduction to formal education for every child for the first time. Help us understand the conception of the idea of NIPUN Bharat. Where did it come from and why you think it's absolutely crucial for young students in India?
Yeah, good afternoon to everyone. This is a very important issue which has been highlighted through the years. But of course, this mission mode aspect was not undertaken earlier. The National Education Policy 2020, as you've already mentioned, which was released on 29th July last year, made a very specific recommendation that the entire policy, actually the success of the entire policy, they have hinged it on this on the children attaining the foundational literacy and numeracy. So they have the NEP has based the entire policy on this pillar of foundational literacy and numeracy. And they have said that every child should compulsorily attain this, and for this a national mission is to be set up. Various studies across the years had shown that unless the child learns to read and do basic and learns to write and do basic numeracy related problems, he is able to solve by grade 3. So grade 3 is considered as the inflection point. So once a child learns to read and write and also to do understand numbers by grade 3, that actually lays a foundation for him or her continuing his studies in the future. It is seen that children who are not able to attain these learning levels by the end of grade 3, they are actually not able to cope up with the curriculum and with the syllabus later on. And actually they all, the gap in their achievement levels and the learning outcomes keeps on increasing as they progress across the different grades. And ultimately they drop out, or they cannot, because they cannot cope up with they cannot understand what is going on in the classes. So they tend to drop out.
Right.
So in view of this problem which has been experienced, so it was thought that we should have this national mission so that this target can be achieved in a time-bound manner, and all children should be able to achieve these basic foundational skills by the end of grade 3.
Right.
So that is the basic introduction of this mission.
Right. Professor Ranjana Arora, to understand this vision a little more clearly, we understand it talks about acquisition among children for foundational literacy and numeracy. If you could simplify for us, what does that mean? And if you could talk about a before and after scenario. We know in school students go, they learn about how to write, how to read for the first time. There's also learning about mathematics, basic mathematics. What is new happening in this case?
So as we all, first of all, good afternoon to all of you. As we all know that school education has three kinds of foundation. You can see that we need to have capabilities of language. We should have capability of maintaining and sustaining relationship with our physical environment, social environment, and we should have capability to know this knowledge in practice. So those kinds of capabilities over the years school education develop. But for that, we need to have very basic understanding of this language, that if we are in some kind of context, so in that context, what kind of script is there, what kind of alphabets, what kind of akshar we use for writing that language, and also speaking. So maybe children are good at speaking, but sometimes when we come to writing, children are not able to write. So those kinds of things have been seen in the researches. And also in mathematics, if you see, the entire mathematics is depending upon the basic mathematical skills which our children acquired, like basic operations. Even if you see -1 into -1, even it is given as +1. This is very basic understanding, and over the years when children go in higher classes, this basic understanding is needed for deriving some formulas, for deriving, for doing some kinds of numerical problems. But since children are not able to do this, or not understanding this at this lower level, they are not able to do good in these in the higher levels. So those kinds of things we thought about, and of course policy recommendations are always there to guide us, as Manishi has already said, and of course lots of research studies also reveal those kinds of things, that if we will strengthen the foundation of children at this level, preschool to class 3, I think that will be very good and very helpful for children to further acquire learning outcomes, and it will improve quality of school education.
Right. Nagalakshmi ma'am, if I can come to you now. Although students stay clear of headmistress office in schools, your interaction with students, how do you see NIPUN Bharat mission could be transformative for their learning journey? Your thoughts on it, ma'am?
Good afternoon, first of all, to all present here. I have observed that children, though they are taught, are not learning much earlier. Teachers are aware of the learning outcomes, but the way it is transacted in the class is not very appropriate, or the methodology is not very good. So now with this NIPUN Bharat, I feel the methodology will become more explicit, multidisciplinary, multilingual, more interactive, sequential, and it will also be diagnostic. I think it is dealing with all these areas so that it will have a right impact on the teaching as well as testing part. In learning, both these are very important. As much as teaching is important, even the testing part is very important. Children learn, as Madam had said, they are able to speak, but when it comes to writing, they do not know even the symbols. They are not unable to identify the words. They are unable to read even one sentence spontaneously or fluently. Now this NIPUN Bharat, I'm sure, aims, and it will, close all these gaps or the vacuum that is present within the system.
Right. Professor Ranjana Arora, what is interesting is that this policy may be new, but perhaps the existing set of students, existing set of teachers are going to be embracing it and taking it forward. In terms of capacity building, in order to take the benefits of this policy, the vision of this policy to students, we also need a very enabled and empowered set of teachers. On that front, ma'am, what is being planned, what is being done? Because before we talk about how to empower the students, how are we going to empower the teachers here?
Yeah, this is very good question. Yes, we are planning to empower the entire set of teachers who are going to take this FLN mission forward through Diksha. As you all know, Diksha is a portal, One Nation, One Platform for digital education. So on that, we are planning to provide quality modules on foundational literacy and numeracy. Those modules will be consisting of module on literacy, module on numeracy, module on toy-based pedagogy, module on multilingualism. So those kinds of modules will be there, full of activities with videos embedded into it, and of course there will be hand-holding of BRC and CRC so that they can further provide support to these teachers who are getting training through this Diksha portal. So these kinds of arrangement are being done for empowering a teacher, because if you see that the entire this FLN mission, if you see, we have divided into this goals, then key competencies, and this learning outcome approach. So teachers need to be aware of that how can they developing competency of their children vis-a-vis learning outcomes attainment. So those kinds of things we are thinking and we are planning, and of course we are in the process, and we hope that with this effort teacher will be empowered and will take this mission ahead.
Right, NIPUN Bharat clearly appears to have that transformational potential for both teachers and students. We'll continue our conversation. We're heading for a short break. Do stay with us. We're heading for a short break. Keep watching In Focus.
नमस्ते इंडिया
नमस्ते लैंड
मरहबन इलल हिंद
इंदू नी हाओ
सलाम इंडिया नमस्ते इंडिया
नमस्कार भारत
मैं इंडिया
नहनु
हुनूर इंडिया माँ हिंदी हस्ती हिंदियानी
सलाम हिंदुस्तान
वी आर इंडिया
Welcome back. You're watching In Focus. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, and we're talking about the transformative NIPUN Bharat mission. And we have with us Joint Secretary, Department of School Education Literacy, Manish Garg ji, Professor Ranjana Arora, Head Department of Teacher Education, NCRT, and P.S. Nagalakshmi ma'am, Headmistress, Kendriya Vidyalaya, Picket, Hyderabad. Manish ji, let me come to you. Just before going to the break, we were talking about the crucial aspect of teacher training. But to realize an ambitious mission like NIPUN Bharat, which transforms the early education for youngsters, what kind of infrastructure investment are we looking at? Teachers is of course one crucial part of it, but in terms of school building, in terms of technology, in terms of pedagogical research, how are we looking at it in a 360-degree manner?
Yes, for the implementation and success of the mission, this aspect is very crucial that you have raised. The mission basically is tries to move away from the approach of business as usual. That's why this is being implemented in a mission mode. And the difference is that earlier we used to just have the textbooks, and the learning in the classrooms was mostly textbook based. But now we trying to move away from that purely textbook-based education and towards more experiential learning, including things like toy-based pedagogies, storytelling pedagogies, ICT integrated pedagogies. So those aspects are being covered. Another unique thing is that we have clearly defined the developmental goals in this mission. As per the vision of the National Education Policy. So basically there are 3 developmental goals which have been defined. One is that children become, is related to the health and well-being of children. Second is related to children becoming effective communicators. And third is related to children becoming involved learners and connecting with their immediate environment. Under each developmental goal, certain competencies have been identified, and for achieving those competencies, the learning outcomes have been defined at each level, right from 3 years of preschool to 3 years of schooling. So it covers the entire 6 years time period when these skills are crucial for development in the child. Besides this, there are clearly measurable outcomes that have been defined, what we are calling the targets or the lakshyas. So earlier we were just teaching in the classroom or maybe doing some annual assessment or maybe not that also, but now there will be clearly defined goals as to what every child should be able to achieve by end of what grade, and that have been defined in very simple terms. So that every parent, every teacher, every school head, and every child himself is aware of what is the basic thing that they are supposed to achieve at the end of each grade. Accordingly, the assessment of the same is to be done,
right?
Which is mostly a school-based assessment and some sample surveys on a large scale, which will be annual surveys. So we are emphasizing more on the school-based assessment so that these assessments can be carried out in a very tension-free and stress-free environment for the child and through observation of their daily activities. Then another thing is that we are going to set up a 5-tier implementation structure for this mission. This structure comprises of firstly the national mission at the national level. Then the state mission, we have already given approvals to all the states for setting up the state level program implementation units. Then we will have the district level program management units, and then at the block level, and finally at the school level. So if you talk about the infrastructure as such, the infrastructure from the building point of view, so there is no building component under this mission. It is more of a qualitative improvement. For the infrastructure strengthening and upgradation, of course, we are supporting the states under the Samagra Shiksha, which is the centrally sponsored scheme from preschool to class 12. So that takes care of the infrastructure aspect. But here the infrastructure is going to be this structure of implementation. Second infrastructural or structural support will be that a lot of resource material for teachers is going to be developed and also uploaded on the Diksha platform. As also we have made provision for teachers' handbooks and teacher learning materials, which will give something in the hand of the teacher to actually refer to and use while in the classroom. And then of course there we have made a provision for a very comprehensive provision for providing teaching learning material to the children in the form of worksheets, activity sheets, which will actually help them in actually practicing and learning by way of practicing. So these are the things that have been enabled, and then of course the assessments and the classroom observations. So those also have been provided under the mission. So this entire structure. So besides this, the involvement of the local bodies, the Panchayati Raj institutions, the community involvement, and the role of the various stakeholders, that also has been defined. So our structure or our infrastructure is not in terms of the building, but it is in terms of the people. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to reach out to the stakeholders, to the people directly, because they are the major contributors. And the mission of this scale cannot achieve because we are covering almost 4 crore children of this age group every year. So the mission of this magnitude cannot be successful unless there is an outreach, and each and every parent is aware of the mission's lakshyas, and each and every child is aware of the lakshyas, and all the stakeholders are aware. So basically the stakeholders and the people, they are the infrastructure. They are the people who we are trying to target and to reach out.
Right.
So that is how the mission plans to move.
This is a valuable point. Nagalakshmi ma'am, if I can come to you. As Manish just mentioned very interestingly that although we're looking at NIPUN Bharat as aimed at strengthening the foundational knowledge in reading, writing and numeracy, it also talks about the well-being and health of children, So if you could help us understand in what context are we talking about that. We're talking about good nutrition, we're talking about mental health, all of this put together, helping child to learn the skills of numeracy and reading and writing in that healthy environment?
It is a very good question. It deals in a holistic manner. It doesn't just confine to just being physically fit. It involves their social compatibility as well as their mental wellness and their knowledge factor. Everything is included in that, right? So the education part of it should include all aspects of this well-being. It talks about health and hygiene. Children should know how to maintain themselves fit, and there are activities involved in the subject, especially when we are dealing with EVS. We talk about EVS, there are right from the beginning, pre-primary level, say you talk to the upper primary level also, there are activities where the children can be engaged in activities which are integrated with sports too. Like, in fact, I was actually reflecting on why are some of the games which are almost dead now. Like, we talk about Gilli Danda. We have games like that which can be integrated, Gilli Danda, Pittu, then 7 stones, 4 corners. These games are indigenous games which can be integrated into our lessons, and maths, numeracy can be taught very well using these kind of games, and the child will stay fit, they'll stay active, not cramped it within the 4 walls. Okay, so that is one aspect of how to integrate sports and games into the normal academic part, and also teach them in a subtle way. Not exactly laying down the rules and regulations. Okay, you better drink this clean water, you go wash your hands. Instead of that, include that kind of activities which are integrated into their curriculum. And it is like that. The themes are formed in such a way, especially the NCERT curriculum is framed in such a way that it is all integrated, it is all multidisciplinary, it's not individual units, isolated units. So only thing is the way it is transacted or transmitted across, and the way the children receive it, and how the teacher makes the children receive it in the proper way. We are talking about holistic way. It's all put together. It is not individual.
Right, Nagalakshmi ma'am, as you put it, it seems like a very good time to be in school, especially the primary classes. Professor Anjana Roy, if I can come to you, ma'am, Manish ji very beautifully put that the most important infrastructure for education are the people involved in it, the teachers.
Yes.
Give us a little more insight into the Nishtha, the training program. When we're talking about making education enjoyable, inclusive, engaging, it is, I'm sure, not as easy as it is said. Let the truth be told, many of us could never become comfortable with mathematics and a lot of numeracy. So in what way, to what extent is that resetting of teaching pedagogy, learning pedagogy happening in this case?
Yeah, in this case, actually, Nishtha is a very good initiative of Ministry of Education. So as you all know, National Initiative for School Heads and Teachers Holistic Advancement. You see, we have used the word holistic advancement, not the holistic training or holistic development. We know that teachers know things, and teachers are aware of child psychology, and they know, but they are not very much, I think, they don't have this kind of capacity to take those kinds of things in age-appropriate manner in the classroom in terms of pedagogy. So what we did in Nishtha, we have designed the module in such a way that for every concept, we have given lots of activities so that teachers get aware that these kinds of activities can be done in the classroom, linking with those kinds of concepts, and not only those kinds of activities as prescriptive, but those are suggestive. They can develop their own activities as per the needs and context of children. So when we conducted this Nishtha into face-to-face manner, you would have been, if had you been there, you would have really enjoyed that. Teachers were coming out with lots and lots of activities and presenting before us that we will be taking these kinds of things in this manner.
It sounds like a wonderful learning journey for the teachers as well, ma'am.
Very, very wonderful journey, and they really enjoyed. And we could train 17.5 lakh elementary stage teacher through face-to-face manner. Now coming to Diksha also is very, very much joyful experience for them, because we have given lots of videos, and on videos also there are questions, and there are lots of scope in the module itself to do activities. When they complete the activities, they will get the satisfaction satisfaction that, okay, we have completed this activity. And then assessment questions are also inbuilt in that. So every teacher has to go to the portfolio activities, this activities, that activities, and then also do the assessment. So teachers are involved, and then there are lots of references also, extended learning also. So they go to those kinds of resources and references. So this is a continuous learning program. I will say this Nishna is promoting. So teacher will not stop at one module or two module, but they will be in continuous learning. And when teacher will be in continuous learning, they will definitely provide that kind of interventions to their children as well.
Right. Nagalakshmi ma'am, to achieve the goal that is set by NIPUN mission, one also needs a very clear assessment pattern. If you could tell us a little about the Lakshya, the way of target setting that has been done, and if you could simplify it for us. We're talking about reading, writing, words, because we're talking about very young students, basic numeracy. If we talk about, say, class 3, by when they're supposed to have this skill, the teachers would strive to have them learn it. So what are those specific skills? Because I learnt about particular words per minute, or the nature of numeracy skills. If you could elaborate on that, ma'am, simplify the aim of the scheme.
The children, should be able to read a particular set of words, the fluency rate, and the speed at which the children are able to read, and the vocabulary that they possess by that grade 3 is very important, and the numerical skills are also important. Now, how to go about achieving this by grade 3 is, you have to work, the teachers have to work right from the beginning. From grade 1, grade 2, they have to start. It is a scaffolding, stepwise layer assessment process it is. Now, after they teach a particular, suppose they're teaching word and say letter and sound association, or the picture and the sound association, or whatever it is, or identification or decoding of a word, or syntax, whatever we are talking about, okay, at that particular level. Now, the way the teacher teaches the children is able to get across to them, and by observing the children itself, their responses. Okay, it is not always that the pen paper test needs to be conducted. Through their observation of the responses of the children in the class, how actively they are participating, how much are they able to respond. By that formative assessment itself, the teacher will be able to get, okay, what level the child is and what is the remediation. Okay, what is the diagnosis that the child, whatever diagnosis the teacher has done at that level, they will be able to go back, make individualized education plan or remedial plan for them, and then act on it, and then reteach, and then assess again. So assessment for learning of learning will take place. So it happens at every level, right from the standard 1 to standard 3, grade 3, what we are talking about, by the time they come there, they should be able to deal with 4-digit numbers. They must be able to read 60 words in a minute, okay, and they should read it fluently and spontaneously. That is where the hitch is, spontaneous reading, and reading with understanding. They should have comprehension, not the mechanical reading. I have read that, but then once it is not registered and it is not processed in the head, it is not reading at all. It is not useful at all for the child. And then again, from subject to subject, if they are lacking behind in the reading competency, right, obviously it will have a hit on their numeracy skill. They will not be able to do the problem solving. In every problem solving, they will not be able to understand and process the information that is given in the mathematical questions. So there again they start falling back. So the teachers will have to work, redo, work on it, then come back. So it is just a cycle, right? This is how the assessment should go on.
Right. That's wonderful. We'll continue our conversation on this very exciting reform that is taking place in the education sector, NIPUN Bharat mission. We're heading for a short break. Do stay with us.
Your window to rising India. India's voice. on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in all Southeast Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now. With the world's largest COVID vaccination drive, India is leading the way. As the vaccine reaches every corner of the nation, do not forget the mantra, Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi. Let's continue our fight against COVID-19. Vaccination along with social distancing, sanitization and masks.
Mask up, India!
Put your mask on and cover your nose and be safe.
Mask Up India.
Welcome back. You're watching In
As
Focus.
the
I'm
day
Shubhendu Ghosh, and we're talking about a very exciting reform in the education sector, the NIPUN Bharat mission. And three eminent guests continue to be with us to take this conversation forward. Manish ji, if I can come to you, and I want to return to the idea of the vision behind NIPUN mission. You mentioned in your earlier intervention about the significant dropout rate from schools in India. Now, what were the key learnings when the national education policy was being formulated, when NIPUN Bharat mission was being formulated? How does this particular intervention of ensuring that a particular set of learning does take place till grade 3, how does that change the dropout phenomena that we witness in school education?
Yes, definitely it will have a lot of impact. One of the major reasons for dropout, because we now have 100% access to schools, at least till the elementary level. There is probably no habitation or very few habitations which are left, which do not have a primary or upper primary school in their neighborhood. So the access is no issue. But the findings of various studies and the National Achievement Survey also shows that there is some gap in the learning outcomes. And as I mentioned earlier, if the child is not able to understand the classroom, they are unable to comprehend what is going on in the classroom, so ultimately they tend to drop out. And this dropout was more pronounced after the completion of the upper primary level, because after that transition from class 8 to 9, the curriculum load increases manifold, and the entire style of the pedagogy also changes. So this impact of foundational literacy is not only at primary level. The impact is going to be at every level, because till class 8 somehow we see the children are able to reach. Probably could be because of the Right to Education Act, probably could be due to the no detention policies that are there. But after that we see a lot of dropout in secondary level. And one of the major reasons for the dropout has been identified as children unable to cope up with the changed pattern of studies and the curriculum. So unless the children are able to learn how to learn, I would say, after a certain stage, they have to. Everyone has to learn how to learn, and that, of course, is a lifelong learning. But after a certain stage, this learn how to learn becomes very, very important. And if someone has not learned that, then they tend to fall behind and drop out. So under this mission, we are under the NAS, basically the National Achievement Survey, or under the other annual exams, when we actually come to know that the child is lagging behind, it is often a little late, and it is difficult to actually help the child in coping up. So the mission actually delineates the learning outcomes for all 6 years, and in various domains in 3 developmental goals, and the learning outcomes have been codified with so that they are easy to identify, and the material can be linked to that codification. And once and for each level, we have defined how the teacher can continuously assess whether the child is able to achieve those learning outcomes by way of observing the child, whether the child is able to perform is unable to perform any activity, any reading activity or any other activity, then they are at the basic level. And if the child is able to perform the activity with some assistance, they are at the next level. And if the child is able to perform the activity without any assistance, that is the 3rd level. And the 4th level comes when the child is able to not only perform the activity, but also help the peers, help his other classmates in understanding and performing the activity. So these are simple levels in which the teacher can assess the progress of the child and provide the assistance or the help that is required at that level itself. Instead of waiting for a very later date, or waiting for the annual exam, or waiting for the 3-year national achievement surveys, or waiting till the end of the grade age or secondary level. So this is what it is. And then for the Lakshyas, you asked a question about what are the targets and how these have been simply defined. So as I mentioned, there are 3 developmental goals, but we have not deliberately have any Lakshyas. Of course, the development of the child is to take place in a holistic manner, covering all these developmental goals. But for the Lakshyas or the targets of the mission, we have looked more at the cognitive aspects, because it is a very subjective thing to assess the psychosocial development or the motor development of the child based on a large scale assessment. So the Lakshyas are basically for the large scale assessment. And if I just give an example, for example, for the first 2 years, which is age 3 to 4 and 4 to 5, we have not given any Lakshya, so that is but the learning outcomes are there. For the Balvatika, which is the age 5 to 6, 1 year before class 1, the Lakshyas are basically very simple, like recognizing letters and corresponding sounds. And then the child should be able to read 3 words, simple words comprising at least 3 alphabets. And for numeracy, they should be just able to recognize and read numerals up to 10, and arrange numbers or objects or shapes in a sequence. So this is very simple. The parent knows that my child in Balvatika should be able to recognize numbers up to 10. Similarly, for grade 1, it is like read small sentences comprising 4 to 5 words, simple words, in an age-appropriate unknown text. So what we are emphasizing is they should be able to read age-appropriate unknown text with comprehension. So for grade 1, it is 4 to 5 simple words. For grade 2, it is 45 to 60 words per minute. And for grade 3, it is 60 words per minute. Similarly, for the numeracy, it is for grade 1, it is numbers up to 99. For grade 2, it is numbers up to 999. And for grade 3, it is numbers up to 9999. And they should be able to solve simple multiplication problems. Because once the multiplication comes, then addition and subtraction automatically assumes that addition and subtraction are known if the child is able to do multiplication. So these are very simple targets which have been mentioned and which everyone can understand and aspire for.
Right. Professor Ranjana Arora, the policy, NIPUN Bharat, the national education policy, they seek to break a lot of conventions in terms of learning. Now we are expecting children young children by class 3 to learn about reading, writing, numeracy. But how are we going to make it fun for them? If we're able to replace, if I may just say, with due respect, some boring books with toys as far as learning is concerned. We learn about toy pedagogy. If the toys that children play with, they can be used as tools to learn, that would be exciting. How is this mission going to bring that about? How are your teachers going to do that, ma'am?
Yes, that is also a very good question, and really we are bringing back these toys in the childhood of children. Though toys have a space in early childhood and education, and teacher used to use those kinds of toys, but in very structured manner now we are bringing it into the school education, and of course in FLN also, and like we are mapping these toys. So many examples now we are taking, and we are mapping those kinds of toys with lots of skills, development of skills, concepts, so that teachers should be aware of that. Only even if she is using one toy in the classroom, and through one toy she can develop lots of competencies and lots of skill in child. So there, and moreover we are also focusing on making toys, creating toys by children. So maybe not in very early years, but of course class 1, 2nd and 3rd grade children can develop their own toys with muds, with papers. So teacher will be trained on how to make children create toys, how to motivate children to create toys, so that they can have fun. Like if now we are using these blocks in very mechanical manner, either to identify the alphabets or making some kind of structure. So now if a child is having blocks in his or her hands, so teacher can now ask so many can have interaction with the child on that kind of thing. So we are also looking forward this language development through toys. So as Manishi has said, this all three goals like maintains health and well-being. So for the health and well-being also, there may be a toy or there may be a Ludo kind of game on which teacher can have interaction with the child. What are the good health habits? What are the bad health habits? And with that kind of Ludo kind of game, children will be understanding, okay, if he or she will be doing this, this is not good for his or her health. If she is or he's doing, like suppose junk food, if he's on the block on the square that junk food he has eaten or she has eaten junk food, then a teacher will say that, okay, you are now getting I think here you are not moving forward because you are stuck here because you are eating junk food. So junk food is not, you just tell me whether junk food is good for your health or not. So those kinds of interaction will happen through these kinds of toys, and children will be learning in fun way. And moreover, lots of experiential learning also we are focusing on. Children are playing in the field, and through play also teachers will be interacting with the children and developing so many concepts. So whether health and physical education, whether sports, whether art integrated learning through drawing and painting, through visual arts, through performance art, like even music, dance, and also these toys. These will be helping children to learn in joyful manner, and of course this developing this numeracy and literacy as per our goals which we want to achieve.
Ranjana ma'am, clearly there is no replacement for classroom learning with fellow students, but given that we are all living in the times of pandemic and many of us had to adapt to digital means, so in terms of tools and pedagogy, are you also looking at digital tools and platforms to prepare children to also be comfortable with that sort of way of learning and interaction?
Of course, we have, as Manishi has already said, that on Diksha portal we are going to upload so many teaching and learning resources which on that kind of digital platform, and those kinds of like story. We have videos on story telling skills. So through that video, child will be looking at the video, and after that teacher will be interacting with the child. What you have looked at those kind of videos, and now how you just tell me that how you would be solving that problem which that animal has solved. So those kinds of interaction will be taking place in the classroom, so that children will be developing critical thinking as well as problem solving approach. So even alternative academic calendar, if you will see, NCERT has brought out last year, there are lots of digital resources we have given in that alternative calendar.
Right.
But besides that, we also have concern for those children who do not have any digital device. So for them also, as Manish has said, we are making provision for worksheets. Suppose if children are not able to come to school, so teachers can at least do this home visits, and through community involvement, they can go to their children home, or children can come to the community center,
right.
and teachers will be giving them worksheets and taking and making them learn. Even toy also can be made at the community center. Of course, if she is going to their homes, there also these kinds of intervention she can provide. So we are thinking all kinds of children, not only those who are having digital devices, but for
wonderful.
those also, yeah, who
Right.
are not having digital
That's a wonderful thought, ma'am.
I'd just like to
yes,
add,
please. Yes, please.
I'd just like to add one point to that, which is that the role of parents has become very important in the home-based learning now. Because children are confined to their houses, we can't help it. But for the parents to support their children in the home-based learning, recently the ministry had issued a separate set of guidelines on how the parents can support at the different levels, at the primary, upper primary, secondary, higher secondary level. Of course, at the primary, upper primary level, it is through very simple activities like the toys can be made at home, and the children can be taught using those toys. The parent and the child can together make simple toys, and by way of that, of course, all of them are targeted towards some learning outcome, but they will learn in a play way manner. So that also have been sent to the states for further dissemination and also contextualization.
Right. Nagalakshmi ma'am, I can come to you for a moment. If all of us were to remember our own school days, our own classrooms, it is very easy for us to remember that there were students who were brighter than us, there were students who were perhaps not as bright as us. What I'm trying to say is that the cognitive ability of every youngster varies, Yes, we are here talking about set expectations of ability to read, write, understand a bit of mathematics for young students. But what scope does NIPUN Bharat have to have that sensitivity to also see the needs of a weaker student from a brighter student? How do we make sure that we can sort of acknowledge and appreciate and help weaker students in the manner that they would need to come to the same level as others?
First and foremost, we need to identify, the child's learning needs, his preferences, and his style of learning. Everything has to be studied by the teacher through observation, and it should be inclusive. Like we have opened the door to everybody, and from all walks of life, there are students walking into the schools, be it the state schools or the central schools or wherever. So it is inclusive, but it should be equitable also. It should be in such a way, it should be dealt by the teachers that they open up and study individual students. Individual attention has to be given, and the teacher should design the teaching activity in such a manner that it reaches out to each and every person there, sitting there. Adaptive curriculum, adaptive assessment has to step in for this kind of students, and then their teacher has to work on, whether peer assistance is required or still further assistance, stronger assistance is required for such students who are having learning gaps. So there is an alignment, the competency, you identify the lesson or the concept, and then there's a competency, you have the learning outcome, then you have the activity, relevant activity, and the appropriate assessment. All these are in alignment. Now, what if the student is not falling in that bracket? There is not uniform set of or uniform worksheet cannot be given to everyone in the class. There are 40 children in the class, every single person. Like, the story of the animal farm. You cannot ask a fish to fly, right? You cannot ask a bird to dive into and swim or whatever. I'm not talking about the water birds anyway. So depending on the ability, their styles, their preferences, their intelligences, and the cognition, the teacher has to design. That is what we call as the individualized education plan. The teacher has to they have to have a roadmap. Though the uniform foundational literacy and numeracy plan will be given to us by NIPUN Bharat, at the same time, at the school level, the teachers, the school level, and at the class level, the teacher knows the roadmap.
We'll continue our conversation. It is so engaging. But that's all the time we had. Let me thank Mr. Manish Garg, Professor Anjana Arora, P.S. Nagalakshmi. Ma'am, thank you very much for helping us understand better the scope and potential of NIPUN Bharat. And because all three of you are important stakeholders in realizing this reform, this revolution in education for youngsters, our best wishes go out to you. Thanks very much for joining us. And with that, we conclude this edition of In Focus. News and updates continue after a short break. Namaskar.